Surprise!
Tyrese!
What's up, y'all? It's Tyrese here to surprise my girl, Caitlin. Gatorade has brought back her favorite flavor, Rainberry, now with lower sugar.
Rainberry, best Gatorade flavor that's ever been invented right here.
Try it and tell me if it tastes the same.
Even better than I remember. It's not even close.
And it's got your face on.
So it looked like Caitlin Clark is setting a new standard when it comes to Gatorade. Guys, for this one here.
What if a sports drink just confirmed what the entire industry has been quietly realizing? When Caitlin Clark showed up on a limited edition Gatorade bottle, it didn't feel like a routine endorsement. It felt like a statement, a signal, a warning shot. Gatorade didn't just bring back Rainberry, one of her favorite flavors, they relaunched it with her face front and center. Add in a surprise moment from Tyrese Halliburton, and suddenly the rollout wasn't just about hydration, it was cultural. Within days, the bottles were flying off shelves, social feeds filled with reactions, fans scrambling to get their hands on one, and then the rumors started swirling. Reports suggest the deal could be worth tens of millions. Some online chatter even throws around numbers as high as $50 million. Now, to be clear, those figures are speculation, nothing officially confirmed. But here what matters more than any leaked number: Gatorade doesn't gamble on hype. This is a brand that has aligned itself with generational icons. They study data, they calculate impact, they invest where they see long-term dominance. And right now, they see that in Caitlin Clark. Because this isn't just about one player cashing in, it's about a shift in power. A moment where women's basketball stopped asking for attention and started commanding it. The real question is whether this deal is big. It's what it represents, and why so many people suddenly seem uncomfortable with it. It started with a flavor. Not a press conference, not a trophy ceremony, a flavor. When Gatorade announced the return of Rainberry, it could have been just another nostalgic drop. Instead, they turned it into a moment. The bottle didn't just carry a logo, it carried the face of Caitlin Clark. That's when everything shifted. To amplify the surprise, Tyrese Halliburton popped in to deliver the news, creating instant crossover buzz between the NBA and WNBA worlds. It wasn't random. It was calculated: two Indiana stars, two rising faces, one coordinated rollout. And fans noticed. Within hours, social media lit up. Clips of Clark reacting to the flavor flooded timelines. The limited edition bottles featuring her signature and branding started appearing in stores and disappearing just as fast. Shelves cleared, resellers jumped in, posts reading "sold out" became the norm. That's not normal behavior for a sports drink. And here's what makes it more interesting. This wasn't backed by some massive, over-the-top marketing spectacle. No dramatic Super Bowl ad, no celebrity-packed campaign, just her name, her image, and a loyal fanbase ready to move. That's leverage. Brands don't accidentally create sellout momentum. They test, they measure, they monitor demand signals. If Gatorade revived a fan-favorite flavor and tied it directly to Clark, it's because internal data likely showed something undeniable. Her presence increases purchase intent. And this is where the narrative gets bigger. Rainberry wasn't just a product relaunch, it was proof of concept, proof that Clark's influence isn't confined to the court. She doesn't just generate highlights, she generates transactions. That distinction matters. Because when a brand sees immediate sell-through tied to one athlete, that changes negotiations, that changes valuation, that changes how future contracts are structured. So while critics debate hype, the shelves tell a different story. And if a simple flavor comeback can trigger this level of response, imagine what happens when the stakes get even higher. Because Rainberry might have been the spark, but it definitely wasn't the explosion. Then the internet did what the internet always does. It started whispering numbers. Not small numbers, not nice little endorsement numbers, we're talking massive figures. Reports suggest the deal could be worth tens of millions. Some online voices have even thrown out a jaw-dropping $50 million valuation. Now let's be clear, those numbers are unconfirmed. They fall squarely into rumor territory. No official contract details have been released. But here's the part that actually matters. Even if the exact number isn't public, the scale of the reaction tells you everything. When a rumor like that spreads and feels believable, it's because the market already sees the athlete at that level. And that athlete is Caitlin Clark. Gatorade isn't a brand that operates on emotion. This is a corporation that has partnered with generational icons for decades. They analyze consumer behavior. They track engagement metrics. They calculate lifetime value projections. If they are positioning Clark as a cornerstone athlete, it's because their internal models are flashing green. Think about it this way: endorsement money follows attention, attention follows impact, and impact follows influence. Clark checks all three boxes. Her games spike ratings, her highlights trend instantly, her merchandise sells out, and now a limited edition flavor tied to her image clears shelves in days. That's not hype, that's purchasing behavior. The rumored $50 million figure might be speculation, but the market response is. What really fuels the controversy is perception. For years, women's basketball endorsement ceilings were assumed to be limited, modest, controlled. Suddenly, there's talk of generational wealth attached to a WNBA star, and some people can't process the shift. But this isn't charity, this is capitalism. Brands invest where they see return, and if Gatorade believes Clark delivers exponential ROI, they'll pay accordingly. So whether the final number is $20 million, $50 million, or structured in incentives, the message is the same. The valuation of women's sports is changing. And that possibility, that's what has everyone talking. Gatorade doesn't guess. That's the part people keep overlooking. This is a company that has spent decades attaching its brand to the most dominant athletes on the planet. They've built campaigns around champions, MVPs, Olympic icons, the kind of names that define eras. So when they lean in heavily on Caitlin Clark, it's not a trend play, it's a long-term investment. And investments are backed by data. Gatorade studies consumer behavior down to the smallest detail. Who's driving engagement, who's converting views into purchases, who's bringing in new demographics. Clark checks every box. She doesn't just attract traditional basketball fans, she pulls in casual viewers, young girls, families, even people who hadn't watched a women's game before her rise. That kind of crossover reach is rare. Think about the timeline. In just a short span, she went from record-breaking college superstar to the centerpiece of national sports conversations. TV ratings surged during her games. Merchandise demand exploded. Social media clips of her deep threes routinely rack up millions of views. Brands see that traction and recognize something powerful: sustained attention. And sustained attention equals revenue. This is also about timing. Women's sports are experiencing measurable growth in visibility and sponsorship interest. The market has been waiting for a breakout personality who could bridge competitive excellence with mainstream appeal. Clark arrived at exactly that moment. But it goes deeper than popularity. She represents momentum. She symbolizes change. Every time she steps on the floor, she draws eyes. Every time her name trends, it pulls the league into larger conversations. That ripple effect increases the value of any brand aligned with her. From Gatorade's perspective, the equation is simple. Attach your logo to the athlete who's expanding the audience, not just participating in it. And here's the bigger picture. This isn't about one limited edition bottle. It's about positioning her as a cornerstone figure for the next decade. A face that can anchor campaigns, inspire younger consumers, and travel globally. Gatorade didn't bet big because it sounded good. They bet big because the numbers and the cultural momentum told them to. Before the endorsements, before the signature bottles, before the rumored mega deals. There was the rookie season. When Caitlin Clark stepped onto the court for the Indiana Fever, the energy felt different immediately, not just inside the arena, but across the entire league. Tickets started vanishing. Road games suddenly looked like playoff atmospheres. Broadcast numbers climbed fast enough to make executives take notice. Networks that rarely talked about regular season WNBA matchups were leading with fever highlights. And it wasn't subtle. Her debut games became appointment viewing. Casual fans who hadn't watched a women's basketball game in years were suddenly setting reminders. Social media timelines filled with deep threes, longer-range pull-ups, and post-game debates. Every big performance felt like a trending topic waiting to happen. Merchandise demand told an even louder story. Jerseys sold out repeatedly. Restocks disappeared just as quickly. You couldn't scroll for long without seeing someone showing off their new Clark gear. That kind of consumer response doesn't happen unless something bigger is taking place. But here, where it gets interesting. The numbers rose, and so did the criticism. Early on, some questioned whether her college dominance would translate. Then, when she adjusted and delivered big moments against pros, the narrative shifted again. Suddenly, it wasn't about talent, it was about overhype. When attendance surged, some dismissed it as temporary buzz. Yet the pattern kept repeating: packed arenas, record-setting viewership, increased national conversation. The impact wasn't theoretical, it was measurable. And brands saw it. Because for corporate decision-makers, rookie stats are nice, but audience expansion, that's gold. Clark wasn't just scoring points, she was expanding the pie, bringing new eyes into the ecosystem, changing who tuned in and why. That's why her first season mattered so much. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't smooth, but it proved something undeniable: she could carry attention at the professional level. And once that proof existed, everything else, endorsements, global marketing pushes, major brand alignment, started to make a lot more sense. The rookie year wasn't just a transition. It was confirmation. Here's the part nobody wants to admit. Every time Caitlin Clark levels up, the goalposts move. It started in college. When she was shattering scoring records, critics said it wouldn't translate. The pros are different. She won't get those looks. The implication was clear: wait until reality hits. Then she entered the league. The spotlight intensified. Early struggles, amplified, rookie mistakes, headlines. But when the big performances came, when the deep threes dropped and the arenas filled, the narrative shifted again. Now it wasn't about skill, it was about hype. She's just popular, it's just media attention, it's temporary. But attendance numbers didn't look temporary. Jersey sellouts didn't feel temporary. Television ratings didn't spike by accident. So the conversation pivoted again. When endorsement deals started stacking up, suddenly she was overexposed. When rumors of massive contracts surfaced, she became overvalued. Notice the pattern: the criticism evolves with the achievement. And here's what makes it fascinating: many of the loudest skeptics claim she is that impactful. Yet they're constantly engaging, commenting, debating, posting threads, writing essays. If she didn't matter, there wouldn't be this much energy around her. This phenomenon isn't new in sports. Breakout stars often trigger resistance. But in Clark's case, the tension feels amplified because she represents more than just one athlete succeeding. She represents change in a space that's historically moved slowly. When women's sports command major corporate investment, some people get uncomfortable. When a WNBA player becomes a household marketing name, it disrupts old assumptions. And disruption creates friction. But friction also signals movement. The backlash, in many ways, confirms the impact. You don't push back against something that's irrelevant. You don't try to downplay someone who isn't shifting the landscape. The louder the criticism gets, the clearer the influence becomes. Because if the spotlight wasn't that bright, there wouldn't be shadows forming around it. And the fact that the debate keeps growing, that might be the strongest proof of all. The next shift didn't happen on a court. It happened in a graphic. When international basketball promotions started rolling out ahead of global competition, one detail stood out. Caitlin Clark wasn't placed quietly in the background. She was front and center. That positioning matters. Because global marketing is different from domestic hype, international campaigns aren't built around league politics or online debates. They're built around visibility, recognition, market pull. And Clark has it. As buzz builds around Team USA appearances and international play, brands are watching closely. The Olympic stage has historically turned elite athletes into global icons. It multiplies endorsement value overnight. It expands fan bases across continents. It transforms domestic stars into worldwide names. So when Clark's image starts appearing prominently in global promotional material, that's not random, that's strategic. What makes it interesting is the contrast in optics. Domestically, conversations often feel cautious, sometimes even awkward. Debates over hype, exposure, fairness, but internationally, the marketing lens seems clearer. Global campaigns tend to spotlight who draws attention, and right now, Clark draws it. This isn't about diminishing other stars. Women's basketball is filled with established champions and legends. But from a pure marketing standpoint, brands ask a simple question: who brings in new viewers? Clark has consistently done that. Her highlights circulate far beyond traditional basketball circles. Her social clips trend globally. Her name sparks engagement even among people who don't follow the WNBA regularly. That's crossover power. And crossover is currency. If she performs on an international stage under the Team USA banner, the effect could be exponential. New markets, new demographics, new endorsement tiers. For Gatorade and other corporate partners, this isn't just about one season. It's about projecting 5-10 years ahead. If Clark becomes the face associated with a new era of international women's basketball exposure, early brand alignment becomes even more valuable. So while debates continue domestically, the global marketing machine seems far less conflicted. It recognizes momentum when it sees it. And if the international spotlight intensifies, the conversation won't just be about a flavor drop or a contract rumor anymore. It'll be about a worldwide brand in the making. Here, where things stop looking like momentum and start looking like strategy. Because this isn't just one brand taking a chance, this is a stack. Caitlin Clark isn't aligned with just Gatorade. She's connected to Nike. She's appeared in campaigns with State Farm. Major lifestyle and consumer brands are lining up. And when you see multiple corporate giants attach themselves to one athlete this early, that's not coincidence. That's infrastructure being built. Each endorsement strengthens the next. Nike solidifies her athletic legitimacy. Gatorade amplifies performance credibility. State Farm places her in mainstream household advertising. Every logo expands her audience beyond pure basketball fans. Suddenly, she's not just a WNBA star, she's a recognizable face in everyday culture. That layering matters. Because in modern sports business, the real power isn't in one contract, it's in brand stacking. The more premium companies invest, the more perceived value increases, and perceived value often turns into negotiating leverage. Think about how this plays long-term: signature shoes, limited edition collaborations, national ad rotations, community campaigns, youth-focused initiatives. The framework is already there, and she's still early in her professional career. That's rare. Most athletes build toward this level of commercial presence over years. Clark hit that tier almost immediately. That acceleration tells you brands aren't treating her like a short-term spike. They're positioning her as a generational asset. And here's what makes it even more powerful: the audiences don't overlap perfectly. A young basketball fan might follow her for highlights. A family might recognize her from a commercial. A casual shopper might see her face on a product and connect the dots later. That's how empires grow, through repetition across spaces. Now imagine what happens if her on-court performance continues rising alongside the sponsorship machine. The narrative shifts from breakout rookie to defining star of an era. At that point, the endorsement deals won't feel surprising. They'll feel inevitable. And that's when you realize this wasn't just a hot streak of partnerships. It was the foundation of something much bigger. It's easy to look at a rumored mega deal and reduce it to one thing: money. But that misses the entire point. When Caitlin Clark signs major endorsements and possibly secures generational wealth early in her career, it's not just about her bank account growing. It's about what that number represents in a space that, for decades, was told to stay small. For years, female athletes heard the same narrative. The market isn't big enough. The audience isn't there. The revenue doesn't justify massive deals. Be grateful, be patient, wait your turn. Now suddenly, brands are writing checks that challenge that entire storyline. That shift is cultural. Because when a young girl walks into a store and sees a WNBA player front and center on a global product, it rewires expectations. It says this level of visibility isn't rare. It's possible. It's attainable. Representation at this scale changes perception. And perception drives opportunity. Clark's rise didn't create interest in women's basketball out of thin air. It amplified demand that was already building. She became the spark that ignited mainstream attention. And when corporate America responded with serious investment, it validated something many athletes already knew: the audience exists. That's why this moment feels bigger than a sponsorship. It signals leverage. When one athlete breaks through financially, it resets negotiations for others. Agents take notes. Brands reassess budgets. Future stars enter conversations with stronger precedent behind them. That's how industries evolve. One deal shifts the baseline. Of course, there will always be critics asking why a wealthy athlete deserves more. But this isn't about excess, it's about equity. For decades, male athletes with comparable cultural pull signed enormous contracts without debate. Now that a female athlete is commanding similar commercial gravity, the discomfort becomes louder. But discomfort often accompanies change. And change is exactly what this represents. So yes, the dollar figure matters. But the message behind it, that's what truly moves the needle. Now comes the hardest part: sustaining it. Because once the endorsements stack up, the bottles sell out, and the headlines scream about massive deals, the spotlight doesn't dim, it intensifies. And for Caitlin Clark, the next chapter won't just be about potential, it'll be about proof. Every defense she faces will be tighter, every road arena louder, every cold shooting night dissected. That's the trade-off that comes with becoming the face of something bigger than yourself. The pressure multiplies. But here's the twist: pressure is also fuel. Recent workout clips show her expanding her game. Sharper off-the-dribble movement, faster release, cleaner footwork. She doesn't look like someone coasting on hype. She looks like someone preparing for the next leap. And that's critical. Because momentum in sports is fragile. If performance slips while brand attention grows, critics get louder. But if production rises alongside the commercial machine, that's when legacy territory starts forming. The upcoming season isn't just another year, it's a validation phase. Can she elevate her team into deeper playoff contention? Can she handle defensive schemes designed entirely around stopping her? Can she maintain the poise that's kept her steady through non-stop debate? Those questions aren't doubts, they're stakes. And then there's the global stage. If international competition enters the picture in a major way, that spotlight becomes worldwide. One iconic moment in a high-profile game can reshape an athlete's brand permanently. That's how careers shift from breakout star to defining figure of an era. What makes this moment fascinating is that the foundation is already built. The endorsements are aligned, The audience is engaged. The narrative is loud. All that remains is consistency. If she delivers, the conversation changes forever. The endorsement rumors won't feel bold anymore. They'll feel justified. And if she exceeds expectations, then this won't be remembered as a hot streak fueled by media buzz. It'll be remembered as the moment a new standard was set. The real question isn't whether she can handle what's next. It's whether the sports world is ready for what that success will look like. Zoom out for a second. This was never just about a sports drink. It was never just about a rumored contract number. And it definitely wasn't just about one limited edition bottle flying off shelves. This was about a signal. When Caitlin Clark became the centerpiece of a major Gatorade push, it quietly confirmed something the industry has been inching toward for years. Women's basketball is no longer asking for mainstream relevance. It has it. And brands know it. The sellouts weren't symbolic, they were transactional. The ratings weren't charity, they were demand-driven. The endorsement stack wasn't accidental, it was strategic alignment with momentum. That's the shift. For decades, conversations around women's sports centered on limitations, limited budgets, limited exposure, limited endorsement ceilings. The narrative always carried a ceiling, an invisible cap that suggested how far things could realistically go. Now that ceiling feels cracked. Maybe not shattered overnight, but cracked enough to let light through. And what makes this moment powerful is just Clark's individual success. It's the precedent. When one athlete commands serious corporate investment, it changes negotiation dynamics for everyone coming behind her. It alters expectations for young players entering the league. It forces brands to reconsider how they allocate marketing dollars. Momentum spreads. Of course, debates will continue. Critics will question sustainability. Skeptics will predict regression. That's part of every breakthrough story. But the marketplace tends to be brutally honest. It rewards what draws attention and drives revenue. Right now, Clark does both. So the real takeaway isn't whether the rumored number is exact. It's whether this moment marks the beginning of a new commercial era for women's sports. Because if this trajectory continues, if performance, popularity, and corporate investment keep rising together, we won't look back at this as a headline. We'll look back at it as the turning point. The moment the conversation stopped being about potential and started being about power.